When I was 16 years old, I was as thin as a pencil. 16, 17 years old, I had body image issues because I was so thin. I was just straight up and down. Yeah, I could hide behind a flagpole. I was so uncomfortable being that thin. I think I was probably about 125 pounds at 5'9". And I knew I was on the low end spectrum. I was trying to gain weight. I was trying to make muscle, but just nothing that I could do was really helping. And boy, I miss those days because life seems to play a cruel joke on you. Over the years, I just started seeing my waist expand. On top of that, I was somebody that never went to the doctor. I used to joke about how I hadn't gone to the doctor since I was born. Now, it was pretty correct in the sense that I probably had not been to a doctor since I was in my 20s. Right around my 60s, I had a situation where I lost vision. I lost vision in my left eye. I know that's showing, I think, on the right-hand side for you guys, but it was my left eye that I lost vision in. It was just something I woke up in the morning, and of course, I'm again not really comfortable going to the doctor. First, I'm sitting there seeing Dr. Google, figuring out, oh, I must have had a stroke or something. I made an appointment at the ophthalmology, not an optometrist, an ophthalmologist through my healthcare system. I went in and saw him, and I had like a blood clot in my eye. They said, okay, the good news is that we can now treat this. The bad news is you're going to have to get an injection in your eye about every 3 or 4 months. And I completely pretty much blanked out after I heard injection in the eye. But anyway, I went through that and I said, what is it causing this? And he says, it could be a number of things. It could be high blood pressure. It could be diabetes. It could be cardiovascular disease. And I was like, couldn't it be just something like too many avocados or something? And he says, no, you better go have your primary care physician check it out. And so I made my first appointment with that doctor in about maybe first doctor's appointment that I had in well over 40 years. I went in and the first thing that happens is they take my blood pressure. It's sky high. And so they ended up taking it again. And it's like horribly high. And then they take it a third time and they're like, okay, this is not going down. And then they bring me in to see the doctor. And by the way, this doctor, a female doctor that got assigned to me, a whole different story there. But I'm telling her why I'm here, that I lost the vision in my eye, but it's being treated. She sends me down to the cardiologist to have an EKG scan. And she also wants me to do some blood work. So I do the blood work. I just finished the blood work at the lab. Now, this is all within a centralized kind of hospital healthcare system. Kaiser Permanente, if you're familiar with Kaiser at all. So I'm a member of Kaiser. And so I get the EKG, and then I get the blood work. And I'm just getting ready to leave, and my cell phone rings, and it's the doctor that had just seen me. And she says, Bill, she says, are you still in the hospital? And I says, yeah, I just finished the blood work. And she says, I was talking with my colleagues, and we're very concerned about your blood pressure. We'd like you to go over to the ER and check in for a few hours, and let's just monitor it. We're just really worried you're a walking stroke. And that didn't make me feel much better, but I went through that. And they got my blood pressure down. And of course, I was put on blood pressure medicine. About a day later, I got all of my blood work done. Now, mind you, I had not had blood work done for about 4 decades, not since my 20s. But I had my blood work done and it all came back normal. The A1C was normal, cholesterol, no issues. Everything was in the normal range. And I thought, that's amazing. So now what I know was causing the problem with my eye was high blood pressure. And now I'm on medication that's treating that. Oh, and by the way, I talked about the shots. Fast forward, I guess it was for the first year, I had one shot in 3 months, another one 3 months later. Each time I had that, they were saying, you know what? It's not changing. In fact, it's going away. This is really good. On my final shot, I think in that year, they said, you're one of the lucky few. We don't think you need to come back for these shots. So anyway, I'm done with the ophthalmologist there. I'm now on maintenance mode with the blood pressure medicine. About a year later, I get a email from my doctor. She says, Bill, she says, now that you are on Medicare, because I just turned 65, we'd like to see you every year and get blood work done. But you don't have to come in. We can do it by video, but we do need you to get the blood work. And I says, hey, perfect. I wasn't really worried about the blood work because everything had been normal. And I didn't have to go in and see a doctor because we were going to do it on video. So I go get the blood work first. The next day, the video appointment comes on. The doctor's on there and we're talking. She says, how you doing? And I said, yeah, everything's fine. I'm monitoring my blood pressure. And she says, hey, that's great. But I do have some bad news for you. Your blood work is showing you are pre-diabetic. Boy, I tell you that really rumbled the earth below my feet. She said, I'm going to send you some things for your pre-diabetes. We don't want that to turn into diabetes by any means. And I asked her at the time, I said, I always hear about these weight loss drugs, the Ozempic, and I had been thinking about this for some time. I asked her, I said, can I get the Ozempic? And she says, no, at this time, Medicare does not cover that unless you are diabetic. And I was only pre-diabetic. She says, there is one other way that you can get it is if you have severe sleep apnea. And I do have severe sleep apnea. In fact, I did a video on that. I'll put it in the upper right-hand corner. You can check that out, the whole 9 yards. It talks about my eye and everything with that. But anyway, she says, I think that will work for you. I'll go ahead and prescribe it. So she prescribed it. I'm watching it because everything comes through the mail for me, the medications and stuff. I could pick it up in person, but I just wait for it to mail. I'm watching it for the mail and nothing has been sent out yet. But then I just happened to look at my bank statement and I see that Kaiser had debited me. Now, mind you, I'm on a plan where I pay $5 copayment for medication. And they had debited me over $700 with Kaiser Pharmacy. And I said, what the hell? And I ended up calling the pharmacy. And I said, look, I says, this just happened. They says, we can prescribe this to you, but Medicare doesn't cover the cost of it. And I said, cancel it. Just cancel it right out. There is no way that I was going to be able to afford $700 on this. So anyway, that was the end of that. And about 4 or 5 months later, I started seeing all of these ads for these various weight loss drugs. And one of them was Zepbound. And my daughter had started doing the Zepbound and she was losing a lot of weight. I looked at the price and it was about $300 at the time, $299 for the low dose. And I just didn't want to do it. But people kept telling me, Bill, this is your health. You do it. So I went ahead and I had to go through a whole like telehealth thing where, completely outside of my normal health care with Kaiser. And I was able to get through a telehealth doctor that ended up with prescribing the medication. No blood work or anything like this. I found one that I didn't have to even go through blood work. So I started it and I started losing weight. I then plateaued after, I think, 2 months. And I went ahead and upped the dosage of that from 2.5 to 5 milligrams. And that actually brought the price up too. But right around this time, the government administration, if you remember, they lowered these prices of these weight loss drugs. And all of a sudden, when the 5.0 lowered, it became almost equivalent to what the 2.5 that I was paying. And I went on that. Been losing weight. But a few weeks ago, I started having these massive nocturnal leg cramps, the worst that I've ever had. And I was like, I didn't want it. I didn't want to make an appointment with my doctor because I didn't want her to know about the Zepbound, and mainly because I was worried not only about being judged, but also screwing up any kind of insurance that I had through the Kaiser plan. I didn't want to put anything in jeopardy. So I was talking to people and they were saying, don't think you really need to say anything to your doctor about that. She doesn't really need to know. You're asking about your leg cramps. There's shit. And by the way, I've been having sciatic pain as well. So I'm thinking that it's the sciatic pain that is causing this, or maybe arthritis or something like that. And so I was hoping, I really wanted to just get some physical therapy for these cramps at night. I wanted to know what to do. I was going out on YouTube and stuff and finding videos, but some of the videos where it sit there and say, don't do this. Others say, do this, don't do this. And I just wanted to talk with a professional to find out exactly what I should be doing for the leg cramps. So I make this video appointment. First time I'm seeing my doctor since the pre-diabetic scare. And I'm telling her, I'm saying, I'm really embarrassed to be talking about this. I feel like it's so insignificant. I know a lot of people experience these leg cramps, but man, they have really been bothering me at night. And it's just in my foot, my calves, everything. And I don't know what to do. And the first question out of her mouth is, are you by any chance on any GLP-1 medication? And I was like, busted. I said, yeah, I am. And I was like, okay, here it goes. She comes back. She says, Bill, she says, that is one of the most common side effects of the GLP-1 medication. We can prescribe you some medication that will definitely help with that. You take it at night. And she did. And it was like, oh my God, this is fine. And she says, and I said, I'm really just trying to get out of that pre-diabetic range. And she says, I'm sure you are. I'm sure you're probably going to be fine on your next blood work testing. That was the story there. And I got the prescription and those cramps have completely gone away at night. She also told me it was probably, and make sure to stay hydrated, and also the electrolytes. And I have been drinking a lot of water, but I also started getting some supplements, some electrolyte supplements that I've been using as well. And all of this has just really helped. There's a story there. I was really worried about scheduling this with my primary care physician. I was really kind of worried about being judged. I was worried about the entire messing up my insurance that I already had. Her response, there was no lecture, there was no judgment. She just simply explained the cramps that were a side effect, and she prescribed Neurontin, and she was supportive. She was supportive. So I'm walking now. I'm taking the Zepbound. I'm losing weight. I am trying my best to eat healthy. So that's my story about my weight gain over the years. I'm sure that a lot of you can probably relate to this. The biggest thing is if you're doing any of these treatments out there, the GLP-1, and if you get any of the leg cramps, hey, it's treatable. It's definitely treatable. So anyway, thanks for sticking with me. I know this was a little bit of a longer video than normally, but I did want to share this.